joining us today, Marshall, for another episode of CyberTalks. Today, audience, I have with me Marshall Savage to discuss the importance of having a software bill of materials for software supply chain risk management and also for software security. Recently, the SBOM has been getting a lot of attention in organizations after Biden's administration mandated the use of an SBOM in the federal space via the White House Executive Order 14028. And because of the benefits of the SBOM, some organizations are requiring it for all customer accounts and not just federal customers. So Marshall, tell us, what is a software bill of materials and what threat vectors does it protect against?
Yes, the software bill of materials, or SBOM, is a listing of all the software components that build up a product or a solution or an application. And so if you go back to a physical world, if you open up a device and you see all the resistors and capacitors and chips inside of it, that's the physical bill of materials. Software today is made up of many software parts the same way to build a complex application. And so it's open source software, third-party commercial software, and in-house developed software. So all of that comes together to make a product release or a services release to a customer. So the software bill of materials is that aggregation of content.
Great. Okay, great. So now that we know a little bit about what an SBOM is, we've all heard of this concept of the Log4j vulnerabilities. Can you tell us why the SBOM would have been useful in helping with Log4j?
Yes, the Log4j is a great example there, where it's a common resource that lots of developers used and like to use to do logging inside their applications. And so the Log4j library got reused in hundreds to thousands of applications across the industry. And without the SBOM out there today, every single customer that had a product or a solution deployed went back to the vendor and said, hey, is this specific product at this version impacted with Log4j? And they had to ask to figure out if there was impact there. When SBOMs are delivered and it lists out all of those software components that make up a product or solution, the customer could look in that list and make that determination themselves and not even have to ask if it wasn't in the list. So it helps out with that transparency and everyone to understand what's built up into the solutions there. On the other side of it, it also helps with development organizations because now they can leverage their incident response teams when customers come in and ask that they can look up inside the SBOM and say, yes, it's included or no, it's not there, and do quick triage back to the development organizations if it is part of it and it needs to start that crank of doing a security patch and a fix and getting it out earlier. So it really makes information available to help the process speed up and being transparent.
Wow, okay, great. Well, it sounds like there are a lot of benefits to the SBOM. Can this SBOM alone provide adequate protection from malicious actors?
No, the SBOM alone does not. Again, it's transparency about what the content is in it. And so attackers, they go out there and they will build up their own version of what is the product made up of and try to go attack it. So the SBOM provides transparency that everyone has access to what it's made up of and what's in it. But that doesn't mean that the patch is going to be closed or the security is going to be fixed. The other thing that it can help do is the transparency of, hey, these are open source libraries that are out there. They've got their release cadence and they have their fixes going into it. We can track how old the software components are relative to the life cycle of the product that's being adopted, because every product that's shipped out has its own Q&A process and its own life cycle, which is going to be different from open source. So it can help encourage good practices of making sure everything's updated just because there's visibility to it and there's more transparency to it. But by itself, it does not fix any vulnerabilities.
Got it. So what are the challenges in implementing this SBOM as we move forward and different organizations are adopting it? What are the challenges that they may run into?
Well, the biggest challenge is the bill of materials is complex and engineering processes combine things together to deliver it out to the customers. And a supply chain can be really short and simple, or it can be really deep as you bring it in from multiple suppliers. So building it up and making sure that the SBOM is accurate with the current tooling that's out there is always a complex challenge. And it's also an area where the industry is growing. Like you said, it was just an executive order that was signed in. So there isn't necessarily good established processes for how you do this and how you monitor it, but there's encouragement to build those processes now today. And people need to institutionalize that in their development, build processes and their release processes that's out there.
So what tools can be used to ensure that these software versions are most up to date?
So the tools that can be used to make sure software is up to date is two-faceted. There's the tooling that says, how do I, as a development organization, pick up that this open source has updated it and I need to include it in my product? And then when I deliver my product to end customers, it's generally not the piece parts that you update individually. It's a package that's signed and delivered and then updated. So for most customers, they're going to see that coming in as an update to the product or to the solution. At Dell, that's called a Dell update package. And if we're thinking about PowerEdge servers, you do a BIOS update or you do an iDRAC update one-on-one, and you can go update it, and Dell makes notifications that they're out there. But when you have thousands of servers, you need a fleet manager to be able to manage systems. And so Dell, for PowerEdge servers, has Open Manage Enterprise. And inside the Open Manage workflow is the ability to inventory what firmware is running in your data center and compare that to what is the latest available from Dell, so that you can see that some of the firmware is out of date. And then Open Manage Enterprise can go schedule a time and push those updates out to all of your systems and all your PowerEdge servers at times when it's not disruptive to your operations. So by automating it and using that orchestration and automation software available in Open Manage Enterprise, you can make updates easier. And simply by keeping updated and doing updates periodically, that is what's going to take risk out of your data center and make sure that things aren't attackable.
Great, wonderful. Well, that gives us a lot of good information and where to get started. And I understand that you, one of your products that you work with is iDRAC.
Yes.
Does iDRAC offer an SBOM, and how might it differ from SBOMs for cloud-native technology?
Yes, iDRAC has produced an SBOM now. And when you think about the different formats that are out there for SBOM, there's SPDX and some other different formats that are out there. So the syntax of delivering an SBOMs are probably going to be similar as the industry collapses on a few solutions that are out there. What is going to be very different is the specific packages that are inside of it. If I'm thinking about a cloud environment, there's going to be Kubernetes or machine learning libraries that are in it. And you'll see those type of packages that build it up into the final solution. When you're thinking about an embedded firmware environment like iDRAC, you may be looking at embedded Linux and some low-level device drivers or GPIO capabilities that are in it that are needing to be updated. So the class of product where you're looking at will vary on the specific content, but the overall idea of having a machine readable package that you can go in and parse and figure out what those packages are will be the same between both of them.
Great. Well, Marshall, thank you for your insight into what an SBOM is and how it can help us. Now the audience will have a basic understanding of why the SBOM can be a useful tool in protecting against threat vectors. So we've concluded another insightful episode of CyberTalks. Always feel free to post your comments and questions, and we will answer them as soon as we can. Until next time, stay safe, stay secure, and we look forward to sharing more cyber tips in the next episode.